Hello and welcome to Budget Wa. Today we'll be focusing on the new General's Handbook launch schedule and what it means for the hobby. In this video I'll be discussing the pricing and new launch frequency of the General's Handbook for Age of Sigmar 3rd edition. We'll briefly touch on some of the rules updates recently announced on the Warhammer community website and how they may impact the game as a whole. And lastly, we'll have a discussion of the good and bad to these changes, what this means for the game, and whether buying the book may or may not be a good idea for you. So let's talk about pricing. It's probably going to be $50. This is from the best online sources I could find, including Spiky Bits, who are usually quite accurate with the pre-order launch prices. $50 is what to expect this weekend. Now, at the time of making this video, the pre-orders have not yet launched. That'll be this weekend, mid-June 2022. But this is up from $40 that the General's Handbook 2021 retailed for. Perhaps more importantly, they've announced that we can expect a new General's Handbook every 6 months from now on, instead of every year, which has been the case since the launch of Age of Sigmar several years ago. This was mentioned explicitly in the Warhammer Fest announcement on video. They mentioned that the new General's Handbook would cover the next 6 months of match play in Age of Sigmar as opposed to the next year. And additionally, you can tell from the naming scheme, they used to be called the General's Handbook 2021 or whatever the year was. Now it's 2022 to 2023 Season 1, which of course implies there will be a Season 2, which will be in 6 months. Some good news is that the profiles and points are going to remain free on the app, at least for now. And presumably on War Scroll Builder as well. They've been quite good about updating this frequently, and I hope they continue to update War Scroll Builder. However, they have confirmed that at least on the app, the points and profiles, and presumably the War Scrolls, will remain free. As for what you get in the book, it's quite similar to last year's General's Handbook. It contains the 8 new battle tactics, 12 battle plans, including 6 that are more setting focused on Galette and will likely have a focus on infantry, which is this book's theme, and 6 that they describe as more general battle plans. It contains the rules updates, including core battalions, special rules. The core rules are also still included, which is nice. It includes the most up-to-date endless spell profiles for all 34 endless spells. Contains the pitched battle profiles for all the armies, as well as cardboard tokens for battle tactics and marking objectives. And the tokens being included, that's quite a nice touch, quite handy for playing the game. So let's dive into some of the rules they recently announced on the Warhammer community website. As I mentioned, this book's theme is going to be focused on infantry, specifically battle line infantry. One of the big announcements is that friendly battle line units that have a wounds characteristic of 4 or less and do not have mounts gain the Galatian Veterans keyword, which just means that they're battle line infantry and they're not something like a Gargant or something like that. So how does this Galatians Veterans keyword come into play? One big part of it is in contesting objectives, both with this rule and another rule we'll discuss a little bit later. But after every battle round, when you roll off to see who goes first, who goes second, the player going second in the battle round can choose to pick one objective on the battlefield to become a proving ground. What is a proving ground? It's an objective that can only be contested by your Galatian veterans, aka can only be contested by battle line infantry with 4 wounds or less. This is pretty interesting. I think I like this rule. I'd like to see how it plays out on the table, but this could really shake up some of the gameplay decisions. And it's interesting that it happens every battle round, so you can kind of mess with your opponent's plans. For example, if they have, a Mega Gargant sitting on a objective, and you haven't already done this, you can say, oh, well, it's a proving ground now, and then they don't hold the objective anymore. So pretty interesting. I'd like to see how it plays out, and interesting too when combined with a rule later that also affects holding objectives for these Galatian veterans. Another thing they're doing in this General's Handbook is at least attempting to address the issue of measuring ranges in Age of Sigmar, which is something that really bogs down the game currently, and is something that I think 40K does much better than Age of Sigmar. As somebody who doesn't really play 40K, one thing that really bogs down the game is measuring ranges, especially with large battle line units. And if you're playing with somebody who's, hyper focused or a little bit obsessive or just very competitive, a lot of time can be spent really lining up all of the models perfectly to say, oh, well, they're 25 millimeter bases and I have them arranged just so. So technically, three ranks can attack with these 2-inch weapons. Or lining up your 32 millimeter bases so they're just touching each other in the right way so that, oh, well, they only have 1-inch range, but the two ranks can attack. And it's something that can lead to a lot of rules disputes and a lot of mucking about with models that could potentially affect the paint job. Um, Trying to get the range marker onto the base. It just takes a lot of time and it's really annoying, and it's one of my least favorite things about the game. What they've done, and it only applies to the Galatian veterans or battle line infantry with less than 4 wounds, so not everything, but what they've done is they've said that when you make a melee attack, you can target an enemy unit that's within half an inch of another model in the unit, as long as the model attacking is within half an inch of a model that's within half an inch of the target. So it's worded in a really confusing way, but basically two ranks can attack is the bottom line of this. Um, the wording means in certain instances it's not always just two ranks. You just have to have some units within half an inch and then the rest of them within a half an inch of the units that are actually up next to the enemy, and then they can all attack. So I think this will make battle line and horde style units more powerful. It fixes kind of some of the coherency issues and it sort of fixes the range issues. I'm not sure that it's perfect, but I'm glad that they're at least attempting to address this, although it would be nice to see a more broad rules change. It doesn't affect the issue with cavalry. If you're running six um, Gorgruntas, six pigs and iron jaws, then they still have to be coherent. And if you're running pig iron choppas, it's hard to get all of those 1-inch attacks in. So I would have liked to see this for everything rather than just the infantry. I get that it's to kind of boost the power level of infantry, but it's still an annoying issue, and I think it's still going to bog down the game in some issues, but step in the right direction. They also revealed a new command ability that's quite situational. Essentially, if you have a Galatian Veterans unit with 10 models or more, you can pick an enemy unit that's close to them, that has a wounds characteristic of 4 or less, and it needs to be an enemy unit with not very many models, because you roll a dice, and then if the dice roll is greater than the number of models in the enemy unit, then you apply strike last to them. I have been wrong before, but this does not seem like a very good use of a command point to me, given that it's reliant on another dice roll and there's a chance of nothing happening, and it's very situational. I'm sure there will be some situations where this may be a good thing to use. Lastly, here's the thing that got a lot of people kind of excited or chomping at the bit, if you will. If you use this core battalion called Expert Conquerors, Galatian veterans, which are the only things that can be included, all count as 3 models for the purpose of contesting objectives. That's a pretty big deal. That seems pretty good. I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but you're running 60 clan rats, suddenly that's 180 for the sake of contesting objectives. There's not much that's going to be able to deal with that other than killing the clan rats. So, something to consider. interesting. It's an interesting way to boost the power level of infantry battle line units and a step away from kind of the monster focused, behemoth focused rules of the last book. So it'll be interesting to see. So let's start with some of the positives about this. The biggest positive for me is that they've announced the points and the war scrolls are still going to be free. They announced it twice on the Games Workshop website, so it's reassuring. I hope this continues. This is one of the things I love about Age of Sigmar is that it's more accessible rules-wise. They've been doing some things that have me afraid they're going to be clamping down on that, but at least for now, they've said it's going to continue to be free. So, some more positives for the game. The core rules are still included in this, so you don't really need to pick up the $70 core rule book. You can, if you're starting the game, it would be reasonable to just get this instead. You do lose some of the narrative play options and the lore and some of the nice pictures if that's a big deal for you. If you're looking for that, I would suggest picking one up off eBay or considering the Dominion box, but I digress. The fact that it's spiral bound is nice. You can lay flat on a table. You're not going to have to worry about the pages closing in on themselves. Useful for actually playing the game. It includes the tokens. I like that. Having something on the table to remind you which battle tactics you've already used and just having the rules right there in front of you is always nice. I like, that they're updating the balance of the game. They're focused on trying to make the game a more fun experience. It is good to see they're investing time in the rules changes, but this can be a downside too, as we'll talk about. What I'd say is consider buying this if you play match play a lot, because it's really kind of a uh, calculation of how much value you're going to get out of this book really depends on how much you're playing this game in the next 6 months. Because after that, it's more or less obsolete. You still have the battle plans, which is nice. You can still play with these rules. But if you're really into match play, people are going to be playing with the next book. Which leads me to the not so good about this new General's Handbook scheme is like every 6 months seems excessive to me. Especially when you think about the book costs $50, and if you're buying every book, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend, that's $100 a year on top of all the additional money and how expensive this hobby already is. It feels like a bit of a tax just to get the rules of the game. Also, more updates mean that more things are going to become obsolete. I know that my battle tome, Auric War Clans, already has a bunch of stuff in it that isn't right because they've errated it or they're changing the points. The points are about to change in here. I kind of like having my rules in a book, and it kind of feels bad to have things that I spent quite a bit of money on already not up to date. Also, this stuff adds up. $50 for the General's Handbook, plus $55 for your Army's Battle Tome. If you want to have all the rules for the game, you can get it with just those two things, but it's $105. And there's no virtual option that I'm aware of. It would be nice if they had something cheaper where you could just buy it to access the rules on the app. I would gladly pay like 10, $15 for that, but 50 is a lot. Additionally, if you're buying the core rulebook and supplements, it just adds up even more. Another thing I wanted to talk about is just this idea of rules bloat. I'm a little concerned about the wording of these new rules that they announced on Warhammer Community. Truthfully, maybe I'm just a little smooth-brained, but it's really confusing. It took me several read-throughs to get at what they were getting at. I realized why they word it so specifically as to avoid any confusion, but the fact that they're changing the rules every 6 months makes the game less accessible, and it gets harder to remember the rules when they're changing so frequently. What I would say is that if you play this game at the level I honestly play at, which I would refer to as like dad casual, meaning I play this game like maybe once a month if I'm lucky. I've got other things going on. I spend most of my time in the hobby on the modeling and painting side of things. So I don't get a chance to actually play very often. When the game takes 3 hours, it's kind of a big time commitment to play. And for me, if it's only 6 months that this rule book is going to be good, that's like maybe 6 games, maybe 7 or 8 if I'm lucky. And then what's the point of buying this? It seems like it's more paper that's going to sit on my shelf. It's 50 less dollars in my pocket. So I would say if you're in a situation kind of like that, really think about how many times you're going to be playing. If you're playing a lot, then great. Yeah, it's probably worth it. But if you're not, um, there's some people I'm sure who only get a chance to play like 2 to 3 times in a 6 month period. That's been true for me. There's been 6 month periods where I haven't played at all. So something to think about. I would really think about whether this would be a useful purchase before buying. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below on whether you're planning to pick up the new General's Handbook, whether you think the more frequent rules updates are good for the hobby or more of a tax on being able to play the game. Anyway, as always, try to keep those piles of shame small while it's full. And thank you so much for watching. Anyway, take it easy and see ya.